Happy New Year. Welcome to yet another episode of AW Classroom. I hope you have started your year on the right foot, and if you haven't, it's okay. We have time and we have this pandemic to use as an opportunity to work on ourselves. Yeah. Also, hello to the international listeners out there. I was today years old when I found out that we have listeners outside of the US. We have listeners in Brazil, the Netherlands, Korea, um, everywhere, Puerto Rico. Thank you. Thank you all for listening to AW Classroom here based in New York City. I appreciate all of you. So before we get into this episode, please support us on Patreon or like, comment, and subscribe so that we can continue doing this work and we can use your words and your feedback as motivation to keep this series going. I hope everyone is safe and warm somewhere despite the craziness, the pure craziness that has been happening, at least here in the US during this pandemic. As you may know, the US Capitol was attacked last week by people call it mobs. People call them thugs, but what they were terrorists and white supremacists as Trump supporters. I don't want to go too much into what happened, but if you want updates, I definitely recommend going to Alexandria OcasioCortez's IG page, and she just posted a IG live kind of breaking down everything that she experienced in the Capitol that day and also like where we're going from here. We are in hopes of impeaching Mr. Trump soon, maybe today, maybe in the next few days, and hopefully he will receive the consequences that he deserves. Oh, the earth is ghetto. I wanna leave the earth is ghetto. Come rescue me. And yeah, so if you want updates on that, definitely go to AOC. She's a homie. She's safe. Thank the universe, and get your updates on that. And if you want a art historical lens on things and a art historical graph that's in conversation with what has been going on at the Capitol, I definitely recommend, if you haven't already, go a few episodes back to when we did an art history class on Dred Scott. So there I talked about how Dred Scott burned the US flag on the steps of the Capitol and was part of making it legal to burn the flag, even if it's an act of protest, and he did that under free speech. A super, super important work in art history. So go back to the AW Classroom episode and get educated on that. For today, this week, we are going to be focusing and turning our attention to Black women and the stories of Black women. And on that note, I do want to shout out Black women who held it down in Georgia to make Georgia turn blue for the first time in 28 years, with beautiful women like Stacey Abrams and so many other Black women on the ground who advocated against voter suppression. This week, I want to hone in on a very important Black woman in American art history, Carrie Mae Weems. Carrie Mae Weems is an African-American artist born in Portland, Oregon on April 20th, 1953, meaning she's an Aries, We out here making super important work in this art world and in the world in general and giving the world our blessing. What can I say? Like we're just fire, you know? We're literally fire. So she is 67 years old now and she is a major contemporary artist working in text, fabric, audio, digital images, and installation video. She started practicing and getting into the arts at a very young age. She started practicing dance and street theater in 1965 at the very young age of 12 years old. She then studied modern dance with Anna Halprin years later. In 1976, at 23 years old, Weems moved to New York City and took classes at the Studio Museum in Harlem. She attended the Institute of the Arts 1981 to 1984, then proceeded to go to the University of California in 1984 and attended the graduate program in folklore. Her work focuses on the beauty of Black life in the US. And with this, her works reveal serious issues that affect our society, such as racism and sexism. She makes work that provides social commentary on the experiences of people of color, especially Black women in America. She's most known for her series, the Kitchen Table series, which she made from 1989 to 1990. This series consists of 20 photographs and 14 text panels. When displayed, they are printed in these square-shaped photos that are in black and white. And the photos show Weems as the main character in each scene. In each photo, she has the camera angled at the same level from the same angle, focusing on the kitchen table. And there's always this white light coming from above that hangs above the kitchen table. And it's so beautiful how this light illuminates the scene. It's kind of like a spotlight on her as the character. Here, Weems sets up her photography every morning in front of her kitchen table, illuminated by a single overhead light. She utilizes the kitchen as a domestic setting for events to take place and unfold as we, the audience, see her play the main character. The works tell a theatrical yet quotidian story. So throughout these 20 photographs, we see her interacting with different people in her life. We see her and her lover hugging. We see her in a time of mourning where it seems like her lover left her. We see her friends come to her to comfort her at the kitchen table. We see her with a little girl that seems like that little girl is her daughter. We see her looking at a textbook as if she's studying. Maybe she's studying something for college and looking after her daughter. We see her nude, where her neck is lying on the table. Maybe that's making a statement on sexuality and freedom of sexuality as a woman. We see her playing cards, drinking, her friend doing her hair at the kitchen table. We see her and her daughter doing their makeup together. They each have their own mirror, and you could see that this little girl is very, very heavily influenced by her. What I love about these photos together as a series is that they are telling a continuous narrative. And if you know anything about a continuous narrative, this is a strategy that has been used in art history for years. It's basically the act of trying to tell a story, whether that's in a painting or through a series of work. You could see that there's a start and a finish to this story. What I love about these photos is that Carrie Mae Weems is taking us through days within her life. Maybe she took this over a month, I'm not sure, but we can see that we could see the range of emotions that she is going through as a woman, as a partner, a lover, a mother, a friend, a person, who is spending time with themselves as well. The kitchen is where food and nourishment happens, serious conversations, and where a full range of emotions are explored. Weems invited friends and family to partake in the series. Each of the images are constructed by the artist, and it shows the struggles of a mother's relationship with their children, their lovers, and friends. These photographs capture the social construct of the family in the kitchen table. Describing the series, Weems said, "It is the site of the battle around the family, battle around monogamy, battle around polygamy, the battle of the sexes, how women hold the key to the bedroom and key to the generations, while the men hold the key to power." So here she's challenging the stereotypical construct between the sexes, between men and women. It's usually portrayed that the men are the breadwinner, they're the stakeholders of the family, they hold everyone down, decisions can't be made without them, etc. But here we see Weems in this series going through her life, going through their challenges and the struggles, but we also see Weems taking control of her life, being an influence for her daughter, going to her friends, spending time with her friends, drinking, getting her hair done, being naked and being sexual. We see her in a position of power where she is presenting that she is the one who is control of her life, she is in control of that kitchen table, she is in control of that camera, she's in control of that house. Period. That's it. She goes on to say, "I use my own constructed image as a vehicle for questioning ideas about the role of tradition, the nature of family, monogamy, polygamy, relationships between men and women, between women and their children, and between women and other women, underscoring the critical problems and the possible resolves." She has expressed disbelief and concern about the exclusion of images of the Black community, particularly Black women, from the popular media, and she aims to represent these excluded subjects and speak to their existence through her work. These photographs created space for other Black female artists to further create art. I think here as viewers, we have to understand the super important significance of Weems taking her own images, being the one to set the camera up and also be the one in front of it. For many decades, Black women have been denied access to do this very thing, to take their own images, to have the power to represent themselves through images. And I love how Weems is taking her own images, setting up that camera, and representing herself in such a wholesome, vulnerable, and multi-dimensional way. This series wasn't about the superficial or glamour or showing status or anything like that. She chose to be herself and utilize tenderness and intimacy as a form of power. And that's what makes this work so compelling and beautiful. I hope this work has given you a new perspective of the kitchen table within a home. I hope that when you go into your kitchen, or maybe when you go back to your mom's house or your guardian's house or your grandma's house, your abuela's house, you look at that kitchen table and you appreciate it. And you also appreciate the women in your family, and that you also appreciate Black women and how they've been holding it down in the US for years. Okay? Thank you for coming to yet another episode of AW Classroom. Be sure to support us on Patreon if you want to get an exclusive look at our notes behind this episode. If you are listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, subscribe, like, comment, 5 stars. We are here grinding all for you guys and to make art history super accessible. So yes, support us, follow us on Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time.